I'm going to say it right now. One, Chelsea are in the final. State the obvious, I know, but we're there. Don't worry about that home leg. We're in the final. We're going to Roswave. We're going to go and win the Conference League. Toughest test will be in that final. It'll be the toughest team we've played because Betis and Fiorentina, actually, it was a bit of a close game. And I think whoever we get out of that is going to be the toughest test we would have seen all Conference League. But I'm confident we're going to get there. I'm even more confident that we're going to get Champions League football. I'm saying it here. I'm saying it with those 4 ridiculously tough Premier League fixtures ahead of us. But I think with Nicholas Jackson in form, I think we're going to be good enough. I think we're going to be able to score goals. Somehow, Maresca's just about going to scrape this Chelsea side into the top 4-5 teams to get Champions League football. I'm looking at the fixtures. I'm seeing Forest lose to Brentford, by the way, which is massive for us because it's now in our own hands, I believe. We've got tough games. Look, Liverpool, very tough. We've got Newcastle in there. Manchester United. Newcastle, I think, could be the toughest. And the reason I say that is I think Liverpool potentially could be a little bit more relaxed because they've already won the league. I know people are going to say Salah wants his record, blah, 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 blah. And look, 1 or 2 players might still really want to make sure they get records, and maybe Slot wants to get them to a point tally and they've set that as a goal. We don't know, but I've got a feeling that game isn't going to be as difficult as if they were trying to win the league against us. I think Newcastle could be fighting. So I think that's going to be the toughest. Man United, with the fact that they won yesterday, and the fact that that final looks very, very likely, the fact that it's going to be Tottenham, it's just unbelievable that one of those 2 teams is going to get Champions League football, by the way. Absolutely crazy. But I think that tells us that United will probably play the kids. And then I think Forest last day of the season could be tough, but I'd back us to beat Forest. I just feel like we've got, if Jackson's on form, I think we've got more about us. I just think we do. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one, but for some reason, and you know what I've been like in this build-up to this like really tough set of fixtures, I just think I saw a goal scorer yesterday in Nicholas Jackson, and if he can carry that on, I think we've got every chance of getting Champions League football. I mean, those goals that he scored yesterday, one is so typically Nicholas Jackson. You know, pressing, ball played through to him, never gives up. And then he somehow gets luck on his side and he just can basically walk the ball into the back of the net. I mean, that is a Nicholas Jackson goal if you've ever seen one. But I thought the finish the other day in the Prem was exceptional. On the turn, first time, everything you want to see. And then this goal last night, it's absolutely fantastic. Moved the ball, shifted it, lifted it over the keeper. It's a fantastic finish. I just feel like Jackson looks like a player with a bit of confidence like he did at the beginning of the season. And we know how good and how important he was to Chelsea being as high up the league as we were at that point. Frustrating for me about Cole Palmer. I don't know when that goal's going to come. I've said it a few times. I've got a feeling that goal comes against Man United. I don't know what it is. I think it might. But I felt like there was that moment where the ball got played in over the top to him and there was a chance, but you know, it doesn't look like it's falling for Cole at the moment. And when your luck's out, your luck is out. But I just felt like there was a lift yesterday. There was a Chelsea side. Look, I know Djurgarden, opponent-wise, is just not what Chelsea are going to be playing in the next 4 games. But sometimes you need a game like that just to lift the players. Because going into this incredibly tough run, by the way, you need your players to be on a high. You need your players to be feeling like they can win those games of football. I think a couple of wins and some good performances in the Prem recently have probably helped this team to be lifted going into a semi-final of a European Cup. However you dress it up, we then had to perform in that game because the other team want to be in the final. They're believing that they're only 2 games away from going to the final of a European Cup, which is massive for any side, however you dress it up, even if it is the Conference League for Chelsea. But I just felt like, you know, the base level of this squad yesterday was higher than where it's been. I look at players like Dewsbury Hall, who I think for most part this season has just been off it, right? And I don't think I'm doing him a disservice there. I just don't think he's looked great. But then yesterday, I actually felt like he was a level above what I'm used to seeing. And I do think he's been progressing this season. But I just feel like he's stepped up. And a couple of other players, like Sancho's stepped up again. He's got a couple of goals recently. Made some good runs to get on the end of stuff. I think he's active. I think defensively he's working hard when he's been questioned at times. And I think that base level of a number of players there, Madueke obviously getting another goal, showing that he's trying to put numbers up this season. I just think they're the sort of players that can really sort of help Chelsea, because if you can rotate them out and you don't need to rely on the biggest names we've got in this squad for games like this in the Conference League, we can go fully fledged for the Prem, trust Maresca to pick the right team, hopefully, and we might have a chance of getting Champions League football. Look, I'm hopeful, guys. I'm just hopeful we're going to do it. I'll tell you what I was gutted about, though, and I hate that I have to mention this, but I do. How did we not keep a clean sheet? I just feel like this Chelsea team and clean sheets just don't really go together. It's just something that we don't do. And that goal was so easy and so simple for Djurgarden to go and score that it was inevitable from the moment they got that ball played in down the side on the left and he crossed it over. I just kind of could see it happening, and Chelsea didn't look really close to any of those players in trying to identify where the danger was and stop it. And that's frustrating. It really was. But you know, I think we saw a Chelsea team yesterday that were together and looked like they're fighting and looked like they might believe they can do something, because I felt that energy back. I felt like this is a Chelsea team that look a little bit better than where we did a month and a half ago. I don't know if we can do it. I'm not sure, but I've got more hope today than I did yesterday and at any point in the last month. So it's going to be tough. But we need to talk about a couple of other things as well, because that's like the football side of things. We're going to go over to the other side. We're going to go over to off the pitch happenings. And first thing I'll address, by the way, is the new sponsor. I actually don't mind how it looks on the front of the shirt. I know it's only for a few games, but you know, I think Chelsea have probably struck up a deal here financially that's going to be beneficial to the club going forwards off the pitch. I don't think this will be a front of shirt sponsor going forward. It could be, but I think this is a deal in the background that's going to generate Chelsea a lot of money. I think we could be looking at another, not a loophole, but another different sort of way that Blueco, Clearlake, these guys at the top of the club now have found to bring money into Chelsea to help us get around certain things. Because this is a weird way. It's just a window of opportunity of advertising until the end of the season. But I think this deal, and you know, you're advertising an investment that Chelsea might be making into properties by putting their name to it, that will generate them a huge amount of money back, because they're going to run it like a business, and businesses would buy property and make money off of them. So can a football club do it if it's a business? Look, I don't know, but that's the sort of vibe I'm getting from this. I'm not an expert. I don't know, but I think off the pitch, this deal is going to benefit Chelsea. I'm absolutely certain, because otherwise, why would they do it? Talking about the business, I think we learned over the last couple of days that to the people at the top of the club, Egg Barley, Todd, you know, Wiss, there's so many other names. I fully believe that we learn exactly what their intentions are. And I think it's purely business. And I think we knew that. But that Ruud Gullit interview on the overlap, I know it's been out for a couple of days now, and I've spoken about it a couple of times on a couple of shows, but that's a weird one for me. I can't look online and agree with people that are saying, well, what does it matter if Todd Boehly doesn't know who Ruud Gullit is? Abramovich didn't know who this player was, like Osgood or something, when he took over Chelsea. I kind of get that, but I bet it wasn't long before he did. I would think if you said to Roman within 3 years of being at the club, do you know who Peter Osgood is? Do you know who these other top players are? Like, you know, Kerry Dixon, who scored a load of goals for Chelsea, would have been there on the stats. And a couple of other players who have been there as part of our history. You know, I think about Bobby Tambling. I think about Chopper Harris. I think about all the people that have got sweets. Matthew Harding as well, right? I think Roman would have educated himself on that, and probably, look, I don't know if he would have met them, but I think he would have educated himself on the club, because I always felt like by the end, Roman lived and breathed Chelsea, and he knew he knew what he needed to know because it mattered to him. It was important. And he also loved the club. I think we learned that these guys don't love the club in the same way. And I think we know that. Going to a consortium from a one-man owner who wants that club to be his everything, I think we knew that would probably happen and we'd feel a little bit more disconnect. But to this extent and to not educate yourself, if I took over Chelsea, all right, maybe that's me being biased, but if I walked into any business or, a new job, or I went to work for a new company or something like that, I would do my research. I'd learn everything I need to know because, one, it's costing me a lot of money. I'm spending over $1 billion trying to make this club do something. I'd want to know what I'm putting my money into as well, by the way. So I'd want to know its history. I'd want to know the people who made this club, what it was. We're not talking about, like, if Todd Boehly didn't know who Jasper Gronkier was, yeah, I might give him the benefit of the doubt, even though he scored a goal that is absolutely monumental in Chelsea's history. I might let him off. There's been goals further down and years gone by as well that are absolutely massive for Chelsea, not getting relegated into falling out of existence, goals like that have saved us. I don't expect Todd Boehly to know the players that have done that because I'd even probably have to ring my old man and say, do you know this player who scored this goal? Because the name slipped me because I wasn't alive in the 70s or the 80s or whatever, when Chelsea were in those dire days. So, look, I hear that he might not know, but we're talking about Ruud Gullit. One, in football, is one of the biggest names, a Ballon d'Or winner, an iconic look. I mean, in the modern era, he's been one of the most identifiable players on FIFA for the younger generation, so they know who he is. And then for Chelsea fans, and Chelsea as a football club, this guy did so much. He's arguably one of the reasons, along with like Glenn Hoddle and Vialli, Ruud Gullit comes into that they were the managers, the players that helped lift this club to probably towards the heights that it was going to, that we then elevated to under Roman, under very, very late days of Ken Bates, and under Jose and the future under Carlo, Conte, Tuchel. Like, that's how important Ruud Gullit is. He's in there with those names, and Todd just doesn't seem to acknowledge that is important information to have as an owner of the club. And I think that shows the disconnect between him and football. He's just not a footballing person. Football's never mattered to Todd Boehly until it created an opportunity to him to generate money. And I get that because there are people that don't have an interest. But I think if you're going to become interested in it, for me, you have to educate yourself, because I actually think Ruud was very humble. I view that as incredibly disrespectful, actually. I don't care if Todd Boehly is richer and, further away than Ruud Gullit will ever be in terms of, like, the club, in terms of an owner. Ruud Gullit will never be there. But with the fans, Ruud Gullit is so much more important to them, to Chelsea, than I think Boehly will ever be. And I think that, for me, is going to look real bad for Todd Boehly going forwards, because it's another slip, isn't it? It's another 4-4-3. It's another Viva tickets, whatever it's called. It's just another thing that we're all just getting a little bit fed up of, aren't we? But away from that, I just want to say that I think Chelsea are going to do it. I think Chelsea are going to get Champions League football. I don't know how we do it. I don't know if it's shithousery or what, but what I will say is I watched the interview of Arne Slot talking about Chelsea, talking about how close we were when we played Liverpool last time. And he said, looking at the table now, judging it off the back of where Chelsea were when we played them, they were the better team on the day, and I cannot believe the gap between us now. But we found a way to win. That's exactly what Arne Slot said. And just recently, Chelsea have been doing that. And I've got a feeling that if we win 2 games, we'll be in the Champions League. 2 out of 4. We can do that, can't we? We can find a way to win. Up to Chelsea. Come on. I believe in you. Maresca, you've got to do this. You've got to get this team firing for the last few games. You've got to win us a trophy, and you've got to get us Champions League football. And if you do that, we'll have another chat about him soon. Look, come on, Chelsea.